Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking Monday Night Football, the Vikings at the Bears. It's Masters Week, which means we have a nice little promo for you guys. Use the code MASTERS for 20% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net. The Vikings are favored -2.5. The total is 43. Now, the Vikings have been a much better team as of late. Dalvin Cook seems to be finding his footing and rushing all over teams. And the Bears are trending in the wrong direction, it seems like. They've lost 3 straight, covering in only one of those. However, the key stat that everyone likes to talk about in this one, Kirk Cousins, 0-9 on Monday Night Football. And that's a hard stat to kind of look against, I guess. But we've got Lee joining us to talk this matchup, who is 10-0 on his premium picks in the NFL. So, Lee, we'll ask you about this one. How do you feel about Vikings and Bears?
Well, this is an interesting one. Why are the 3-5 Vikings favored on the road over the 5-4 Bears? That's the first thing that jumped out at me, and I looked at that and I'm like, why is that? Well, it's clear that more money from the public is coming in on, like you said, the red hot Vikings right now. The Bears have lost 3 straight. I'm seeing public money on the Vikings, sharp money on the Bears. I'll never side with the public, so I'm going to stay with the sharp money in this. To win this game, the Bears are going to have to stop Dalvin Cook in the Vikings running game, that's for sure. The Vikings are 3rd in the league in rushing yards per game at 160. They're 10th in rushing attempts per game, and they're also 1st in rushing yards per attempt at 5.5. The Bears' rush defense isn't as good as their overall defense, but some of that is due to being on the field for long stretches because their offense hasn't maintained the football for long stretches or converted third downs. But the Bears are 14th in rushing yards per game allowed at 117. They're 11th in rushing yards, per attempt at 4.1. But Chicago's offensive numbers aren't as bad as you think because they faced Tampa Bay, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and the Rams in the last 6 weeks. And all 4 of those defenses are top 8 in defensive efficiency. Minnesota's defense is 15th. So now we're going to step down quite a bit, facing a defense of the Vikings that isn't as good as the defenses they've been facing, which, let's face it, the Bears offense has not looked good. Foles was better last week. He went 36 of 52 for 335 yards and 2 touchdowns against Tennessee. They actually outgained the Titans by 147 yards in that game. They held Tennessee to 11 first downs and 92 rushing yards. Tennessee is very similar to Minnesota in terms of offense, I would have to say. And if they can have that kind of success limiting Dalvin Cook and the Vikings' rushing attack, they should have a chance to win this game. The other thing that stands out to me in this, the Bears have lost 3 straight against the Rams, New Orleans, and Tennessee, 3 pretty good teams. They were just a 2.5-point underdog at home to the Saints, who might be the best team in the NFL, and they lost by 3 in overtime. Now they're 2.5 to the Vikings. I think your obvious choice is the Bears.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will depend on if the Vikings can successfully run the football, because we've seen they've won 5 of their last 6 against the number. And in all of those, they've rushed for 162 yards or more. In their lone loss against the spread, they rushed for 32 yards against the Falcons. So I think it'll be a matter if Dalvin Cook can get going. And this Bears run defense is pretty good. I know Derrick Henry had some issues getting going against this Bears team. I think if you can stop Derrick Henry, it's a pretty good indicator that you might be able to stop Dalvin Cook. Granted, they're both really good running backs, but I think that's the key to this one, is whoever can run the ball successfully or at least stop each other on the run.
Yeah, and I think turnovers by the quarterbacks are key. Like you said, Kirk Cousins is prone to making big mistakes in big situations. Nick Foles has struggled. At times here, too, he's thrown quite a few interceptions since he's taken over the starting spot for the Bears. But, with the Bears at home in this type of situation off 3 consecutive losses, you have to expect them to bounce back if they're going to bounce back.
Yeah, what do you make of stats like that? Kirk Cousins 0 for 9 on Monday Night Football. Is that something that you take into account? Is that something that makes a lot of difference to you? I'm sure it's in his mind.
Yeah, I would say if it was 0-3, 0-4, I really wouldn't pay too much attention to it. But 0-9 is a pretty glaring number. There's something there with it. And maybe he just can't handle the Monday Night Lights. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's had a sparkling record overall and just been a lights out
Yeah.
quarterback in every game. So it's not that crazy. And then one final note, it looks like Matt Nagy no longer calling the plays. They'll have Bill Lazor doing it, which I remember
Yeah.
him back when I was covering the Dolphins. He was calling the plays for Ryan Tannehill, who was not very good when they were playing for the Dolphins. So any other stats or facts to add when it comes to this Vikings and Bears game before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think it's just a very big divisional game for both teams, obviously trying to keep pace with Green Bay in the North. Like I say, the situational wise, Vikings being a public team right now, playing really well in their most recent couple games, and everybody looking at the Bears as being potentially a bad team after three straight losses. So it really tends to tell me that the value is on Chicago at home.
Right. It's kind of like the stock market. You've got to buy low
Yeah,
and sell high. All
exactly
right,
right.
that's going to do it for our NFL talk here on Picks and Parlays. As always, great stuff from Lee. Lee, thanks for joining us.